right, let me tell you something mean, Kyle, that this is the amazing, the incredible, we don't know what to watch podcast. The podcast where two guys watch random movies and then talk about them. With me, as always, is the amazing, the impossible, the invincible Kyle Mulford. And I'm Noah Saturn. How you doing today, Kyle?
Woo! You know what mean? I don't know if I can keep that up forever. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. So this is one of our mini episodes, sometimes maxi episodes, where we talk about what we've been watching. Kyle, you've watched a lot of things, so why don't you go through them?
I have. I was sick for 2 weeks, and we haven't recorded in a while, so also that my voice may be a little off today. But anyway, we'll get started here. First off, I watched The Prowler. I may have already talked about this one once. From 1981. It's streaming on Shudder now. And this is a slasher movie from 81 that doesn't really make any sense and is not a great movie, but it's got really great kills done by Tom Savini, so it is worth watching. And then I continued on my Lone Wolf and Cub series with Baby Cart in the Land of Demons from 1973. And again, more samurai and slice and dice and a baby in a cart. And
was this 4 or 5?
I think this was the 5th one.
Okay.
So I'm almost through the series and still enjoying it. So you've heard me talk about the rest, and I am still recommending this whole series as I've hit number 5 now. Then I watched a interesting one on Shudder called The Jezebels, aka Switchblade Sisters from 1975. I think it was originally The Jezebels, and then they released it in America. I think they released it like 2 years later, re-released it as Switchblade Sisters or something like that. So, but this is playing on Shudder. This is an old 70s exploitation flick. This female gang in the city gets thrown into turmoil when there's another girl that comes into town that they try and pick on in a little diner, and she fights back, and they're like, oh, she's okay. And then she gets into the gang, and then, her and the gang leader eventually come to heads there. Because, there's also a boy gang, and the leader of that likes both of the girls, so.
Oh, okay. And then they have to get all the way back to Coney Island after they were accused of killing a leader.
After they accused of killing Cyrus.
Yes. Can you dig
it? Can you dig it? I kind of liked this one. If you like those kind of movies from the 70s, seek this one out on Shudder. And then we have a whole podcast on this, but just thought I'd mention that you and I went to the theater and watched Akira from 1988.
Yes, we got to see a special screening of Akira at a local theater, and it's still awesome, and it's even more awesome on the big screen.
It was great, and you can go back
I've never seen it on the big screen.
I had never either, so that was a lot of fun, and that was my first time back in the theater since Birds of Prey in February of 2020.
Nice.
So that was a good movie to go back to. And you can go, like I said, you can go back and listen to our entire podcast on that movie. Then on Tubi TV, I watched a 1988 film called Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama.
What a title.
With Linnea Quigley. This one was, there's this sorority and they're doing their initiation or whatever, and there's like 3 guys outside their window peeking in, and then they kind of go into the house, and the girls catch them, like, because they go all the way upstairs and start peeping on them in the shower and everything. So the girls catch them, and then they decide to punish them by making them go steal a bowling trophy from the mall. And while doing so, they accidentally let out some sort of imp or genie or something, and it gives them wishes that, backfire, and all hell breaks loose. And it's a fun movie.
I was hoping you were going to say it was the same mall from Chopping Mall.
No, maybe it could be. I don't know. We were just in the bowling alley for this one. So it's a fun 80s cheesy horror movie. I'd recommend it. Then family movie night, we watched the 2022 Pinocchio live action with Tom Hanks. Another live action remake of a classic that was kind of unnecessary. And I have to say, my wife and I both agreed that we're like, Tom Hanks just really wasn't that great in this role. And I hate to say that about Tom Hanks, but I didn't care for him in this. And I can't say I really cared for the movie at all. The end.
Okay. Yeah, 2022 is inadvertently the year of Pinocchio because we had the one with Pauly Shore earlier in the year, and now we have this one. And now, honestly, I'm waiting for the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio.
Yeah, that one actually looks pretty cool to me. So, but this one was another one of those. It's just like, why? You just remaking the animated one, and you put everything in it still, and somehow you didn't do it as well. So whatever. I'll just go back to watching the cartoon next time. And then I risked watching this because I'm not usually a fan of this director, but I watched Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai from 1999 from Jim Jarmusch. We watched it. We have a whole podcast on Dead Man, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, and I did not like Only Lovers Left Alive, and I think there's another one I've seen that I didn't really care for. But you know what?
I kind of dug this. Dead Don't Die.
I know you talked about that one. I don't know if I saw that one yet.
Oh.
I kind of dug this one. This has got Forrest Whitaker, and he's this guy who just lives in the city, and he hires himself out to this mob for hits. But he practices the way of the samurai, and so he's got this moral code and everything, and all this. And then the people who hired him out end up having to. The bosses are like, no, we need to take this guy out. And they're like, well, he's always worked for us and done good work. And so the guy comes after him, and he's got the honor of going, I'm not going to kill you because you're my master or whatever. As in like, I don't remember what they call it. Kind of the guy who gave him his chance and everything. So he's like, I can't kill you. So it was an interesting movie, and I really liked Forrest Whitaker in this. That one is streaming on HBO Max right now. And then streaming on Canopy, another movie I'm going to recommend is 1986's Rad. This is about a small town, and there's a kid there who loves riding his awesome BMX bike, and they bring a race into the town, and Lori Loughlin comes in as one of the racers, and he falls in love with her, and they have like a school dance, and him and Lori Loughlin dance with their bikes. Like they have a dance routine with bikes, and it's awesome. And then they have a big bike race at the end, and this is directed by Hal Needham. And this is actually kind of one of those feel-good teen movies from the 80s that you like the characters. You never really have a problem with any of them other than, the typical bad guy. And I really liked this one. I never saw this one when I was a kid, and so I thought I'd visit this one, and I'm glad I did. I highly recommend checking this out on Canopy.
I just want to point out that one of the few reasons I know about this movie existing is the fact that it's one of the songs on the soundtrack was done by Sparks.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
It might have been music that you can dance to during the big dance sequence at the party.
Could be. It could be because, yeah, they had some other music going, and then I can't remember the song that they did the bike dance to, though. It's a song but anyway, I highly recommend this one. And then I watched on HBO Max the 1942 film Cat People, because this is one of those you always see on those scariest moments like lists and whatever, and because of the way they shot it and everything. And honestly, I was a little disappointed in this movie. It was kind of dull and took a while to get anywhere. It's basically about a woman who meets a guy at the zoo, and she has and they start dating, but she's got this fear of commitment because she thinks her family has a curse where if she falls in love, she'll turn into a cat and kill the man. And they get married anyway, and he has her seeing a psychiatrist and all this stuff, and then you find out what I think it was true. So but it takes so long to get going. It's
a pretty short movie.
It is. That's the bad part, is that it's a short movie that feels long. Some of the cinematography is cool. Some of the shots are cool. The way they use shadows and stuff like that. So I'm glad I watched it, but I don't know how much I can recommend it.
I like this one, and I also recommend the sequel to Curse of the Cat People. It's a wildly different movie, but it's still pretty interesting.
Okay. Then on Amazon Prime, I watched the 1991 film Shakes the Clown, directed and starring, and I think written by Bobcat Goldthwait. This is about Shakes the clown. He's an alcoholic clown, and he does children's parties, and he hangs out at. I love this movie. Like I had never seen this one before either, and I love this because they live in a world where there's actually a clown bar called like the Twisted Balloon, where a bunch of clowns just hang out and drink after doing their parties or whatever, and Shakes is like an alcoholic, and then there's they have this whole world like just clowns just exist. So like when they see mimes, they want to beat them up, and then they bring in rodeo clowns at one point, and Tom Kenny is kind of the bad guy in this movie, who is the voice of SpongeBob.
Yep, the voice of SpongeBob.
I think he and Bobcat were good friends growing up or something like that. So, but I really like this movie because it's just so bizarre the way they play it straight through the whole movie. And eventually there's a whole plot about Shakes getting set up for murder, and he has to try and convince people it wasn't him, or framed for murder.
As they said in the advertising, it's the Citizen Kane of alcoholic clown movies.
And I cannot dispute that. So, okay, another one that I watched. I'm skipping over a few because I watched so many movies, and some of them were kind of just duds. I watched a movie from 1988 called Red Scorpion with Dolph Lundgren. Another one that I missed growing up, and I don't know how. I did not realize that this was a Kaufman trauma picture.
Nice.
Which, usually leads to, this is just kind of a garbage movie, but I liked this one. This is about Dolph Lundgren plays like a Russian soldier, and he's sent in to stop this uprising. And I think it's supposed to be in some African country. And then he discovers, oh, wait a minute, us Russians are actually the bad guys here, so that's basically the gist of it.
Let's see. So was it Tromaville? So it doesn't take place in Tromaville, New Jersey?
No, it doesn't. It felt a lot different than a Troma production.
Okay, so we didn't get to see the car flip that they've been using since Sergeant Kabuki Man 1?
No, I don't think so. So I like this one. This one was streaming on Plex, which is a free movie service that I just downloaded. Another free movie streaming service that I downloaded.
Remember, the Toxic Avenger is an American classic.
Yes. Then I watched a 71 film on Shudder called Daughters of Darkness. And this is like a Belgian movie, I think it was.
I think I've heard of this one.
Yeah, and the only reason I mentioned this one is because it is one that horror fans like, and it's more of an artsy one, and I did not care for it. This is about a couple in Belgium that, I hope I'm not getting that wrong, I think it was Belgium, that they are going back to his parents' house or something like that, and he doesn't want to go, so he's kind of drags his feet about it, and they stay at a hotel, which is completely empty because it's winter, I guess, and nobody stays there in the winter. And then two lady vampires come in and start, hanging out with them and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I was so bored with this movie, and it's one of those artsy ones that people really like. So I would stay away from this one.
So not for Kyle.
This is a not for Kyle movie. One that was for me, I could only find it on DVD, so I rented it on Netflix DVD. It was Tom Horn from 1980. This is a Steve McQueen movie, Steve McQueen Western.
Yeah, it's pretty late period. Yeah, if it's 80s.
Yeah, and this is about Tom Horn was an actual person in history that got hung in the late 1890s. So, I mean, spoiler for the end of the movie, but it's a true story. He comes into a town. He used to be, I don't remember what, someone who went into like the Indian territories and whatever for the government and all that stuff. But he gets hired as like this guy to stop some cattle cattle thieves. And so he starts shooting them, and they're like, oh, well, crap. He's shooting all of these guys that are stealing our cattle, and it's going to come back to us that we're the ones who hired him. So we need to kind of get rid of him. So they frame him for a murder. And then the whole thing about this thing is it's unsure in the history books whether he really did it or not. But I guess there's evidence showing that he probably, most likely he did not. So, I liked this, and I liked Steve McQueen's performance in it. And I know I just spoiled it, but it's kind of a journey about his character, and I would recommend this one if you
So
can
what you're
find it.
saying is he did not get together with Yul Brynner and 5 other guys to defend a small village?
He did not.
That is definitely not magnificent.
Then I watched a 1981 film called Demonoid on Tubi TV, and this one is a 1981 Mexican horror film about a guy who owns a mine, and they inadvertently dig up some cursed tomb, and there's this hand, the left hand in a silver case, and apparently it's a hand that'll possess you, and like it's got really great effects of like a hand crawling around and stuff, like the thing from Addams Family.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So this is the demon cousin of the thing, and it possesses you, and kind of it then possesses your left hand, and kills people. And this was kind of a fun movie. So it's just kind of like trying to get to the person who dug him up and take over their body. So I kind of like this one, and that's streaming on Tubi.
Does someone have to cut off their left hand?
Yeah, there's a lot of left hands getting cut off in this.
Well, they say, "Who's laughing now?"
Then another family movie night, I introduced my kids to Stand By Me from 1986. And this is based on the short story The Body by Stephen King. And most people know this one, directed by Rob Reiner. 4 boys learn about a dead body down the tracks, and then they walk the tracks to be the first to like get on the news for finding the body. And it's all about...
They eat it.
And yes, they eat it. And the end.
Yeah.
It's all about them bonding and just this adventure they had. And the 4 boys are Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, River Phoenix, and what's his face, Will Wheaton. So this is a high recommend. This is a movie I watched a lot as a kid. It's just a really great tale about 4 best friends having a little adventure.
Yeah, but did it take place in Maine?
No. What's funny is I think it took place in Oregon, but they still called it Castle Rock, Oregon.
Well, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was weird. I was like,
Castle Rock.
I wonder why they changed it to Oregon in this movie. I'm sure.
If it's Stephen King, it almost always takes place in Maine.
Well, yeah. Well, it always takes place in Castle Rock, Maine, even. But yeah,
until Needful Things when Castle Rock got destroyed.
they moved Castle Rock to Oregon.
It's got to be it.
Then on DVD, I watched the 2022 film Father Stew with Mark Wahlberg. And this was actually based on a true story about a boxer who ends up getting like damaged enough that he can't box anymore. And then he goes out to become an actor in Hollywood, but then he meets this girl and he kind of chases her around and finds her. And she's like a Catholic at a church. And then he wants to become and then he starts going to church with her, and then he gets hit by a car, and he decides after he wakes up to become a priest. And I thought Mark Wahlberg did a good job in this movie, but this was another one of those movies that just took so long to get anywhere and just kind of dragged. It was like 2 hours long, and I think you could have cut a half hour out of this movie. It was an interesting story. I just don't think it was told well enough, so I'd probably skip this one. Then my daughter and I watched the 1963 Mario Bava film Black Sabbath. This was
Ozzy in it? Ozzy Osbourne?
No, but this is the movie that I think inspired their name.
Oh, probably.
I believe that's actually true. This is kind of an anthology movie. It's got 3 short stories in it, and it's kind of a Boris Karloff is in the interim parts, but he's also in the second story. The first story is about a woman who is in an apartment and is getting harassed by someone on the phone saying that he's going to kill her. And there's a little bit of twist here and there, and it's kind of an interesting story. The second one is kind of a vampire story with Boris Karloff. Didn't really care for the second one at all. But then the third one was the best of the three, and that was about a woman who goes, an old woman dies, and a woman goes there to help, take care of the body and everything, get everything set up for her funeral and all that, and she steals a ring off of her finger, and then this dead body starts haunting her, and it's creepy and pretty good. So I would actually recommend this film because of the first and the third stories in it. So
Nice.
And that one is streaming on Shudder. Sorry, I watched so many. Another one streaming on Shudder that I'm going to recommend is Terrified from 2017. I believe this was a Mexican film. It was in Spanish. This neighborhood, weird things happening in a couple of houses, and then someone's wife dies, and he goes to jail because they think it was. I mean, he was the only one in the house, but it was this creepy scene of her getting thrown around a bathroom by an unseen force. And
was it Gabriel from Malignant?
Yes. And then these three people go and each of to investigate this and the supernatural stuff, and each of the three go into three different houses and stay the night in there. And there's some really, really kind of creepy, scary images in this, and like the people / monsters that are in it are kind of terrifying. And there was even one jump scare that got me, and I actually kind of jumped up a little and gave a little squeal in my chair. I was like, but the imagery was just, yeah, I'd recommend this one. It's creepy.
Nice.
If you want a good scare in October. Then I'm going to skip that one. It wasn't that great. Then also on Shudder, I know this is going to come out later, but I'm getting into some horror now because we're in October as we're recording this. But I watched Deadly Games from 1989, aka Game Over, aka Dial Code Santa Claus. And this is a French film from 1989 about a kid. This kid is like the smartest kid ever. Apparently, he's like a 10-year-old, whatever. Has every toy in the world because his mom's rich. They live in this giant mansion with secret passages and trapdoors, and he likes to dress up in army clothes and run around his house and pretend he's like, in a war or whatever. And then he's got all this stuff, security cameras set up, and he's and intercom systems throughout. And it's this boy who's set everything up. And his mom's out on Christmas Eve, and it's just him and his grandpa, who can't see very well and can't get around very well. And some weird creepy dude finds out he's there by himself, and or essentially by himself, and he's dressed as Santa, and he comes in. So the boy is waiting for Santa Claus to come in so he can see him for real. And the Santa comes down the chimney, and spoiler, just because people like to know if this happens in movies, Santa kills his puppy.
That jerk.
It's kind of like John Wick. It's like, you killed my dog, you're done. And so this 10-year-old boy has to outwit this guy who breaks into his house on Christmas in a movie that came out 1 year before Home Alone.
That was my next question.
Yep. Yeah, it came out a year before Home Alone. And this one was a really pleasant surprise as well. I've got a lot of recommendations this time because I really dug the crap out of this film. And so it's kind of like a horror version of Home Alone, but that one's streaming on Shudder. And then finally on Amazon Prime, I watched a 2002 Eli Roth film, Cabin Fever. I think this was his first film, about a group of a group of like 20 somethings going and staying in a cabin. Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World is one of the kids. And while they're in the cabin, this one dude is out in the woods, and he's like a hermit who lives out in the woods. He gets infected by some animal with some skin disease that kind of tears away to the skin. And then he goes and tries to get help from the kids, and they're like, no way, dude, you're sick, blah, blah, blah. And then they still start getting sick too as well anyway. And then it's Eli Roth. So there's like a bloodbath ensues with lots of people dying, and it's kind of fun and gory and just kind of a fun time.
Good for him.
So that's another recommend. I liked that one. I know some of Eli Roth's later movies can get a little too much. This one was quite a bit of gore, but it also had some fun to it. So I kind of rather enjoyed this one. But that's what I've been watching. A whole lot of stuff.
Okay, I have not been watching that much stuff because I've been busy with other things.
When you're
So
sick for 2 weeks, you watch a lot of movies.
I suppose if you got the time, that's great. So we talked about Akira. I also watched The Wiz, the cooler version of The Wizard of Oz.
I've still never seen this.
I mean, obviously it's got great music. So
Yeah.
it's The Wizard of Oz, except this time it's
Michael
with
Jackson plays the Scarecrow.
Michael Jackson plays the Scarecrow, and a lot of great celebrities. It's and almost an all-black cast. Solid movie. If you like the music, it's got that Motown groove to it. Definitely watch it.
I've been meaning to watch this one for a long time.
I want you to ease on down the road. Next, I watched 1917, the World War I movie directed by Sam Mendes. I got that on DVD. I borrowed it from a coworker of mine, and he was right. It's a really good movie.
I saw this in the theater with my, I don't remember if I went with anyone, but I saw this one in the theater.
I really enjoyed the sequence where everything was dark and it was like the only light was coming from like a big fire. That was a gorgeous sequence.
There was a lot of really great shots for this being like a one-shot movie. My only thing about this movie is that I think it was a really cool exercise in having like a one-shot film. What's perceived as a one-shot film, because obviously there's cuts in there that are hidden. But my problem was that it worked to its detriment too, because there's one scene where he runs into like all of these allies, and then he ends up getting off the vehicle. And literally 2 seconds later, he's getting attacked by the Germans, and these allies don't come and help him. They don't even hear him. I'm like, it was literally 2 seconds ago that they drove away, and you're getting shot at. Like, some of the timing, because it was all done in one, like it's supposed to be just one shot through the whole thing, one ongoing thing, and with, no cuts in time. I was like, well, some of the things didn't work out timing wise then. But other than that, it was beautifully shot, and it was a really cool concept movie and mostly well done. So
Yep, very well done. And a great story too.
And I was impressed with them getting the whole single shot with that plane crash and everything into the barn. Like, I know there was a cuts in there, but they were hidden so well that I was
lots of great hidden edits.
Yeah, the editing was top notch in this, because I really didn't see any of the cuts while I was watching this.
Yeah, unless you're really looking for them, it's very smooth. All right, next I watched The Pacifier with Mark Sinclair, better known as Vin Diesel.
Wow, you're going high class here.
Yeah, on Disney Plus, where he plays like a Navy SEAL who is put in charge of taking care of the family of like a scientist who died, and then he has to make sure like bad guys don't get him and find out where this mysterious device is.
All right, interesting.
Hijinks ensue because he's a cop in a kindergarten or something.
He's a kindergarten cop?
Or he's a commando who's in the suburbs.
Does he have a 24-inch pythons come looking for you?
He might. But yeah, it's ultimately a pretty sweet film. It's goofy. It's a Disney comedy. It's kind of fun to see Vin Diesel before he jumped back into the Fast and Furious movies. And lastly, I saw Don't Look Under the Bed, a Disney Channel original movie from 1999. And it had the basic idea is that there's this teenage girl, and she keeps getting blamed for all these like elaborate pranks that she didn't do. They were actually done by the boogeyman, and then she has to get help from an imaginary friend named Larry Houdini. Yeah, but the makeup they did on the boogeyman was actually pretty solid. At one point, they have to go under the bed to this evil like boogie world dimension. And that was pretty solid. So for a DCOM, it actually wasn't bad. I thought it had a pretty good message to it. And ultimately, you find out that someone becomes a boogeyman because they like essentially what happens to an imaginary friend after if the kid grows up too fast.
I thought they weren't supposed to look under the bed.
That's true. Well, they did anyway.
Isn't that always trouble?
That's very much trouble. Overall,
hey, there was a boogeyman under the bed in Terrified as well.
That's true. But what was fun about another thing I noticed about this one is that the dad was played by Stephen Tobolowsky.
Awesome.
Yes, and then like I made a theory that like the dad is like some kind of ghost because you never see him outside their house in the entire movie.
It's the
With a
ghost of
guidance
Needle.
counselor, like when she has to go to the principal's office, the mom goes by herself, but not the dad. All I'm saying is the dad doesn't really exist because he can only be found inside the home.
He's the ghost of Needle-Nosed Ned.
Exactly. Sold one too many insurance policies.
Ned? Ned Ryerson?
I missed you so much.
Oh, Ned's dead. Oh, now he's a boogeyman under the bed.
Happens to everybody.
Is that everything you watched?
That is everything I watched. What do you plan to watch next?
Well, like I said, this is it's October for us. It's probably like March for everyone else when this gets posted. But so I plan on watching more horror movies, basically.
I also plan on indulging in the spooky season, and I know hopefully I'll be able to go see Halloween Ends in theaters when that comes out soon.
Nice. I still haven't seen the second one. What, Halloween Kills?
Yes.
I think it's on HBO Max, so maybe I'll have to watch that this month.
HBO Max or Peacock, I think, one of the two.
Oh, shoot. I don't have Peacock. But yeah, so, yep, more horror movies for me. But in the meantime, you can catch us online on Twitter at AwesomeKM.
And I'm at Noah_Saturn, SATURN.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. And till next time, keep on watching.
Keep on watching your scary movies.